Go ahead and start us off.
Welcome everyone to Rhino on the Shock Doc. This is episode, we'll say number 2 in a sense. This is our NFL talk. We're gonna be coming at you guys. Sorry for being a little late right now. I just got out of the gym a little bit later than I wanted to. But we're gonna talk about what happened in week 1 of the NFL. Talk about some key injuries, and we're also going to talk about breaking down the upcoming games. And then we have a fun segment for everyone. It's called the Rhino Bucket of Champions. To be my choices of best offensive player and defensive player, not based on stats, but based on who really made a difference in the game for their team. So you can base everything off of stats and all that, but based on watching them, the bucket of champions are going to be my picks of those making a difference in the game.
Again, guys, this is like just after midnight here where time. Yeah, we're starting a little late. I mean, it was either do it now or it was going to be late tomorrow anyway, so we just figured get it done now. We are just going to get right into this as it is late. So we are going to start off with the Thursday night game, Cowboys versus Buccaneers. Great game.
Yes, it was. I think big shout out to, and then we're going to be as biased as possible. Obviously, we have our favorite team, and there are teams we do not like. But I think this was a great start to the NFL season. First of all, having fans back in the stands, full capacity since the Super Bowl. But even then, it was still kind of scarce. This one was full capacity, sold out arena in Tampa Bay, defending Super Bowl champions. And you know what? It was a great comeback for Dak Prescott. Watching the game, the Buccaneers, they are the team to beat. And I think we said that in our first podcast with the NFL. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, led by arguably, and you can make an argument for this, but arguably the greatest quarterback of all time, Tom Brady. He played lights out, controlled the game as best he can. But I think a big shout out does have to go to Dak Prescott in his first game back. Very limited in the preseason, and he came out with 3 touchdowns on 403 yards passing. He did throw for one of the higher percentages in the NFL right now at 72.4%. So great performance on him. I think if Dak Prescott stays healthy, the Cowboys do look like a contender for that NFC East, which ultimately is not a very strong division.
No, it's not.
And frankly, it really is coming down to the Cowboys division to lose based on if they could stay healthy. One thing I did take from this is we're kind of seeing a little downgrading of Ezekiel Elliott, who had probably his first 2.5 years in the NFL. Very strong, very remarkable. Looked like a very promising start. But then last year and this year, it's been kind of a downslide. So we'll see if that maybe the return of Dak Prescott maybe helps him kind of rejuvenate and bring that back.
Obviously, I only got to watch the fourth quarter of the game, but Tom Brady hasn't missed a beat. He was hitting his passes. Gronk looked like he was good. Antonio Brown. Mike Evans didn't have quite a good game. Wasn't targeted very much. He was. Well, it looked like Dallas's defense was covering him a bunch. Same thing kind of on the Cowboys side. Elliott couldn't get going at all, so Dak went to the air, and Amari Cooper just pretty much caught anything you could throw at him. And as long as Jar went to, he was in there a few times as well. But definitely, like I said, great comeback game for Dak Prescott in his 2021 debut. I'm so happy that he came out and did what he did because he was so upset after that injury last year. And I think we will see a bounce back game from the Cowboys. I think if they get that running game taken care of, figure out what they need to do there with Elliott. If Elliott is a need to be out there anymore, or they need to figure out how to get him more involved, we will see.
All right, going to the next game. we're going to go to Seattle Seahawks versus the Indianapolis Colts. Seattle taking the game 28-16 over the brand new...
Hop Fanatic, that sucks that Amari Cooper was on your bench. You would have made some serious points.
Hey, it is what it is. Seattle Seahawks taking it to the newly looked Indianapolis Colts with Carson Wentz at the helm at quarterback. I look forward to seeing what. I am a Seahawks fan too. I just was on a Seahawks shirt. Starting off, gotta be someone in our league, isn't it?
Yeah, right.
That's starting
Andrew.
Okay.
Yeah.
Starting off, Seattle offense actually looked fairly good. A great sight to see. Russell Wilson was connecting very well with his team, with his receivers. Though DK Metcalf was a very quiet performance today or on Sunday, and that's something that I think will happen a lot. Chris Carson running the ball very well, had one unfortunate fumble, but continued to show improvement from a couple years ago when he had a fumbling problem. Tyler Lockett, always a phenomenal receiver, making big plays. Defensively, I thought Seattle's defense did look strong. Their defensive line really did put pressure on Carson Wentz. And Colts' offensive line is actually ranked is one of the better in the NFL. So for our defensive line to put that pressure on and make plays was a big note. There were times, especially in the first drive, that the Colts were running it through the Seattle defense. I still think there's some work to be done with the defense. First of all, stop freaking blitzing Jamal Adams.
Agreed.
That was costing Seattle a lot of points right there. And we're gonna have to, and I think one of the big takeaways is definitely Seattle has to learn to move on from KJ Wright. Unfortunately, it did show not having KJ there next to Bobby. Kind of showed that there is still some work to be done. But I have faith in Jordan Brooks, who actually did play really well in kind of that starting role as a kind of in that role for KJ Wright and everything like that. I know that they sustained a bad injury during preseason for BBK. I don't know his whole name, so I'm just going to go off that. Who is potentially in line to start as well, but good rotation of the linebackers, great rotation by the defensive line. That's kind of my take. What is yours?
So on the Colts offensive side, Carson Wentz coming into a new system, another quarterback that was kind of limited during preseason. He's still trying to get a feel for the game. He was out there, the Colts star wide receiver T.Y. Hilton. So that kind of impacted him a bit, but Pascal, I think his name was, really did step up for them. I was actually really impressed with the one running back, Hines. Hines was actually doing really well. He was hitting the gaps really good, and on wide receiver running back screens or just outlets or even dunk passes, he was getting open. He was making our Seattle Seahawks miss and getting those yards for the first down, helping bail them out. Colts defense out with did not have Xavier Woods, so that played a factor, I think, as well in that DB with the DB area, allowing Metcalf, Lockett, mostly just Lockett, just to get down there and get open. Even the rookie Esridge, even he got some plays in before. Unfortunately, he got hurt. So I would have to say Colts. I think they're going to put together, like you said, they have one of the great offensive lines. Seattle was actually not ranked really good with their defense going into this season, and they definitely did change that night.
It does. It did show why Seattle's defense, though, will always have the spark in the end of the season where they always seem to be one of the top ones. It did show kind of the rustness of our defense, especially with, again, losing a big member in KJ Wright, as well as Shaquem Griffin, who has been a very, very solid cornerback in the replacement of Richard Sherman from the Legion of Boom time. DJ Reed, which did a really good job in that spot. We are going to probably see Sidney Jones pop in a little bit in replacement of Trey Flowers, who really, I think Trey Flowers is a very, obviously you're got to be really good to make the NFL. I think that's point proven. Can't say a lot of these guys are just garbage. They are good enough to make the NFL, and that's something to take in consideration. But Trey Flowers, which he's done fairly decent in the last few years, he's not the best cornerback though. So with the signing of Sidney Jones, we should probably see a little bit more solidarity with the corners. Quandre playing really well. I think he's
Had a
definitely
nice hit in that game too.
he did.
Nice, good, clean
I
hit.
think, like I said, our biggest factor is going to be our biggest. We got to overcome this is going to be um, the life after KJ Wright and really just playing Jamal Adams better. I think, yes, he's a great blitzing safety, and he led the NFL last year for sacks as a safety and everything like that, but that doesn't mean he needs to do it because pulling him to do that obviously opens up. Obviously, we haven't talked about the Seattle Seahawks offense a little bit. I think it was just a very solid performance. I don't want to ever hear starting this whole let Russ cook crap. The minute that crap starts, he starts sucking. So game one, we're gonna get by that.
All right, Kenny Norton. Like, I know I love you very much. You've been a great coach, but man, like I said, as Ryan had pointed out, stop coming out and down and blitzing. I mean, that one play where I saw you brought him mid down and he blitzed, it went right over the top for the touchdown, right where he should have been. So hopefully, Kenny, please fix that. Like I said, love you, but just fix that.
We're gonna move on to the next game because we could obviously talk Seattle Seahawks for a long time, and maybe
we're gonna get that out of the way.
Maybe we'll start like a Seattle sports segment too, where we talk about Mariners and Seahawks and all that stuff. So we're gonna move on to the next game, which I was actually really happy to see. It is the Philadelphia Eagles and the Atlanta Falcons. Here's my takeaway from this: Falcons need Julio Jones. Eagles, bright future with Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith.
Agreed.
You're talking about two guys who played college football together, who found great connection with each other. Jalen Hurts, who I loved watching in college, though he played for Alabama, and I don't like Alabama, and he played for Oklahoma, and I don't like Oklahoma. But one thing about Jalen Hurts is he was a winner, and he proved it by taking two college football programs to the college football playoffs, also leading one of them to a national championship and everything like that. I think it's a great pickup for the Philadelphia Eagles. He brings mobility. He brings a strong arm. He brings toughness. This dude works out probably harder than anybody else in his locker room and everything like that. The Falcons, though, I think this is a clear sign that the end of the Matt Ryan era is upon us. Yep. We are going to be starting to see the decline. Honestly, it's sad to see because a few years back, you think about the Atlanta Falcons were in the Super Bowl, and had they just had better play calling in the second half, they were Super Bowl champions. Really just a one-sided game in here, and like I said, this is the downside of what we're going to see. Maybe the Falcons can bounce back from this, but after watching this performance against the Eagles, I don't have a lot of hope for it.
Agreed. I couldn't agree with you even more. Eagles, I think, are going to have a bright future with Hurts and Smith going forward. If they can keep that chemistry going, they are going to be big and get back up to that championship mentality that got them to the Super Bowl in the first place. Falcons, yeah, I mean, the days of Rodney White, Julio Jones, Tony Gonzalez, Devontae Freeman, Abraham on the defense, and that great defense that they actually used to have is unfortunately seems to have faded away. And I see the Falcons, just pretty much going back into the rebuilding years, trying to figure out what they need and are going to look forward to the future. Matt Ryan, you've been great. I mean, I'm sorry, but I think might be time to, hang it up after this year. If you could change something, you prove me wrong, by all means. I'll admit that I was wrong. But, I mean, I don't see Matt probably, if they continue this, I don't probably see Matt probably finishing
Yeah, and nothing against Matt Ryan's career. He has a phenomenal career, done so much for the Atlanta Falcons, MVP, Super Bowl contenders, and all that. So, going to the next game, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers winning over the Buffalo Bills 23-16 in a very
Yeah,
good matchup of two of the top AFC contenders the last few years. Um, I'm gonna, watching a little bit of this game, the Buffalo Bills coming into this game was supposed to be a high-powered offense, wanting to compete with the Kansas City Chiefs for one of the more dominant offenses in the AFC.
right.
But Pittsburgh also comes in as one of the top defenses, and it's proven by holding the Buffalo Bills and getting the win in Buffalo, which is a little hard to do.
Agreed. I was just watching the highlights before we even started this game because I was curious of what was even going on in this game because I had three guys in my fantasy team over here, and actually just watching this, what I actually saw was pretty much both defenses were getting pressure on the quarterback. Quarterbacks were both missing their marks, made some mistakes. Wide receivers actually had some key drop passes. It wasn't going well. It was not a pretty game to actually watch on both sides. But Steelers in the end ended up actually getting that 17 points there in the fourth quarter and getting the W. But like I said, it was an ugly game. It was not an ugly game. I expect both these guys, have a better game next time.
Well, last thing I'll say about this game is I think the biggest thing that really hurt the Buffalo Bills was turnovers. I did read that they did suffer some unfortunate fumbles towards the end of the game. Devin Singletary, he's a good running back, but he's having a little bit of hard time holding the football. I think he may have had two fumbles. Josh Allen having one himself. Bills will bounce back from this. It was just kind of a tough week one opponent.
Right. Before we actually move on to the next game, guys, we would like to remind you to, especially anybody here in the chat right now, you have any comments, please share them. What you think about these games that we're talking about. You have any questions for us on YouTube, same as well. Leave them down. We would love to hear them. Anyway, as you're saying, moving on.
Next game, we have one of the first overtime games of the NFL season so far. We had the Cincinnati Bengals beating the Minnesota Vikings 27-24 in Cincinnati. Great game overall. Kirk Cousins looks like 353 yards, 2 touchdowns. Joe Burrow had a pretty good game himself. Hard to take away from this game anything going into the season. I don't have high hopes for both these teams. I think there's more upside to the Bengals with Joe Burrow. There is the Vikings. Again, I would want to say if there's a quarterback on the hot seat this year, I think Kirk Cousins is one of them. I think he came into the Minnesota Vikings after a pretty good run with the at that time Washington Redskins, now the Washington football team. He showed a lot of promise and everything like that. And the addition to Kirk Cousins, they have had playoff appearances, but no deep runs in the playoffs. So I think this could be a season to watch for Kirk Cousins and see how things are going because I don't know if he's going to be around much longer for this team.
Yeah, well, I know we talked about him in our fantasy draft day and our NFL season predictions. Yeah, Kirk Cousins is, I think, definitely a guy in the hot seat. I think he's like on his fifth year,
Fifth year or something like that
with Minnesota right now. So yeah, we'll have to be seeing. He's got to perform to probably keep his job this year. I'm gonna tell you guys right now, being UWN, I don't think they'll put Jake Browning in, but we'll see. It doesn't look like Devin Cook.
Be the dumbest move.
I mean, I probably would
be the dumbest.
I think it would be Devin, but you know what? It's the NFL. Something could happen. Who knows? He probably just might have one good game, and then after that, who knows?
But Cam Newton.
But
do that. Your choices are Jake Browning or no.
Well, that's the thing right now. We'll get to that later, but yeah, Cam Newton might be joining a new team here real soon. So, Devin Cook doesn't look like he was much of a factor to help Minnesota. Unfortunately, seems like Cincinnati just had a pretty good offense going. I mean, like Ryan said, great game. I was able to catch the end of it as they went into overtime and watch that. You just had two teams just going after each other, fighting until the very, very end until last score of the game caught them the win.
All right, going on to the next game, we have the San Francisco 49ers coming to Detroit,
Oh my
coming out with the
God.
win, 41-33.
I watched the highlights of this one. Oh my God.
Great
Ooh.
first showing by new Lions quarterback Jared Goff. 49ers going with showing a little promise for the future by throwing Trey Lance in for a play where he did score a touchdown. Elijah Mitchell, who is a rookie running back, showed one of the better running performances of the week one, and Deebo Samuel, a very, very good receiver if he can stay healthy. 49ers showing why the NFC West teams are the division to watch out for. Detroit showing a lot of promise, but ultimately coming up short. Unfortunately for the Niners, they did lose a key member for the year of Mozart, who suffered a knee injury early in the game, and what was supposed to be 8 weeks of possible being out to he came out today saying that he's going to have season-ending injury, which is unfortunate for him. A very gifted athlete, and he was on my fantasy team, so no hard feelings there, because the one thing you don't want to see is people. So
49ers, as you can see, they came out hot. Their defense was hot too. I mean, they racked up in the first couple quarters and they didn't let up. Unfortunately, they let the Lions come back more than they probably should have, the way that they were playing in that first half. But definitely, yeah, keep an eye out on the San Francisco 49ers this year. I was actually not expecting them to come out this big. Not saying it because they're in my our Seahawks division, but yeah, I was actually thinking that they would be less. They also did lose a key cornerback as well to injury, so we'll see what happens there on defense. Nick Bosa is back with the team. Hopefully, he had, I believe, a pretty good game. He'll help out with that defensive line. And yeah, it's going to be, as always in that NFC West, it's going to be a battle.
I guess the question going forward with the 49ers is going to be whether or not this is the same team 2 years ago that went to the Super Bowl, or is this a team that we've seen last year? I still believe that when healthy, the San Francisco 49ers is a very dangerous team. They built a very strong foundation there, and we'll see if that continues. So jumping into the next game, we have another NFC West team with the Arizona Cardinals really taking it to the Tennessee Titans 38-13. Kyler Murray had one of the best performances of the NFL at quarterback, throwing for 4 touchdowns, running one for himself. Derrick Henry, who was last year's rushing leader, and I think he actually was 2-time rushing champion of the last 2 years, really getting shut down. Arizona with a new look defense, with the addition of J.J. Watt in, who had a very decent game himself, but Chandler Jones was a big name threat for everyone on that team. Julio Jones, his first game as whatever. Yeah, we know Kelly won. He posted on Facebook like a dick.
Yep.
Doesn't realize that I'm the commissioner. So with the addition, I think Julio Jones coming in his first full season game with the Tennessee Titans really did not have a very strong game. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think this is the sign that Arizona is a team to watch out for, or what are your thoughts on this? Because I have my opinion.
So this was another game I actually was watching before we started, checking out the highlights, and I gotta say, actually, in those first couple quarters of the game, both teams were actually having problems with their offensive line. Basically, on Arizona's side, is Kyler Murray was scrambling out of the pocket probably 70% of the time, maybe more, and running to find one of his players downfield. The wide receivers for Arizona were getting open when they saw their quarterback scrambling, and then Murray was finding them, and he actually had one play where I think Murray is getting a little too aggressive with that when he's rolling out. I think he's getting a little too, I guess you could say, what's the word? I guess probably just aggressive is actually what the word would be. But I saw him try to force passes in and hoping that his guys would bail him out. And I think that might be a downfall that other teams are going to see going forward. But I mean, like I said, his offense bailed him out. His wide receivers, his running backs helped bail him out. Unfortunately, Tennessee, like you said, Derrick Henry was a non-factor. He did start to get some momentum in the second half, but unfortunately, Tennessee tried to come back way too late. Cardinals were already, and then yes, Chandler Jones was just beating the tackles on the outside all game long. He was in Tannehill's face, if not, breathing down his neck almost all game long. So yes, I think, and this is what I've been saying before the even season started. I think Cardinals are really going to be the surprise in the West and actually possibly take that division.
We'd like to see, we'd love to see that. My thoughts on the game is a little too soon for hypeness. A little too soon for hypeness. But I also will say that shows kind of true colors of the Titans. Titans in the last years, in my opinion, have been very one-dimensional. It is give Henry the ball. I again, my thoughts on Ryan Tannehill is that he's a good game manager, but he's got to prove, is he a guy that can make those comebacks? If he can lead his team as a quarterback, make the passes. He's shown light in times, and then he's shown that he can't.
Yes.
Arizona, I do have respect for this team. Kyler Murray is a very great, talented player. Shows a lot of promise and everything like that. He does have a very talented receiving core. Obviously, having one of the best receivers in the game right now, DeAndre Hopkins. Has a good core running back with Chase Edmonds and James Conner. We'll see what happens from this. I think it's too early to say the Cardinals are going to make a run for the NFC West, because we'll talk about the last team in the NFC West a little bit later. But what showed is in the NFC West so far is that they are the best division. They are the very best division, but they can beat all these teams, but it's a matter of who's going to come out on top. And when we talk about the Rams game coming up, all these games were multi-point differential games. Actually, except for the Niners and the Lions game, but that was also a very high-scoring game. All these teams in the NFC West averaged over close to 30 points, with Seattle only got 28, but showing a lot of promise going forward and everything. So again, I'd say can Tennessee bounce back, and can Arizona keep this momentum?
And honestly, as we can actually see, you guys will see it here in a second. Tennessee Titans lose Amani Hooker, their starting safety, put on injury reserve with a foot injury. That might affect him going forward too as well. So we'll have to watch out for that too.
Next game, we have I want to say San Diego Chargers. The Los Angeles Chargers versus the Washington football team.
I still do it too.
Washington football team taking a big hit by starting quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick going out with an injury, a hip injury. And very close game on here. I like their quarterback for Washington, the backup. Heineken. What I'm horrible with names like that. So apologize for that. Justin Herbert, former University of Oregon Duck, in his sophomore year, came out fairly good game at 337 yards and 1 touchdown. I think that there is some upside to this. You know what? Screw it. The San Diego Chargers. I'm sorry for Los Angeles Chargers fans. of habit. I grew up with them as San Diego. Charger fan. With the Chargers, I think there is some upside. In Washington, they surprised a lot of people, and especially myself, in the playoffs last year with the quarterback coming in, not really ever playing a game, and really taking it to the Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They have a great young defense led by Chase Young. What I take from this game is promise, and I say that because I think both these teams have upsides in their future.
Agreed.
And I think what we saw was, again, just upside of potential contenders in their divisions for years to come.
Yeah, I can agree. Everybody thinks, Washington, a football team, is like one of the weaker teams in the NFL, but they are getting the pieces. They are getting the pieces that they need to become a contender, especially in that division that they are in with the Eagles, the Falcons, or excuse me, Eagles, the Cowboys, and the Giants. So we will see. Keep an eye on them. Keep an eye on them. And obviously, yes, Justin Herbert, great young quarterback, sophomore year. I expect to see great things with him. Him and Keenan Allen, obviously, you're right there, 9 catches for 100 yards. I've always kind of been like a Chargers fan off to the side. They're always back to the LaDainian Tomlinson days and the Phillip River early days. I want them to succeed. It's just that they always can't finish. So here again, I'm hoping that please at least get finish to at least get into the playoffs.
Yeah. So not much more I'll say about that. Again, I say for the Los Angeles Chargers and the Washington football team, keep an eye on both. Next game, we have the
revenge game
for Sam Darnold as the Carolina Panthers take down the New York Jets 19-14, which actually ended up being a little bit closer than I expected. Sam Darnold in his first game as the Carolina Panthers quarterback. Christian McCaffrey having a first game back after injuries and everything like that. Zach Wilson obviously making a comeback on his NFL regular season debut, coming out with a 5-point win for the Carolina Panthers. Hard to say with the Panthers what they're going to do. I think that if McCaffrey stays healthy, this could be a team to maybe finish second in their division, and maybe show a lot of promise and everything like that. The Jets fighting back, which is something you don't normally see in the Jets games. So we'll see. I think this is a great start for both of them. Like I said, one team unfortunately has to lose, but to make a comeback like the Jets did, that does show a little promise in Zach Wilson and the Jets.
The Jets with their young quarterback, Zach Wilson, he's in a division now where every quarterback is early 20s right now. So as you guys will see here later on, I think that division is going to almost be up for grabs with any team in there right now. As we'll talk about one game in particular here in a bit. But Jets, they're getting their pieces together. Zach Wilson, I need to see a bit more from him, see what's going on there. Panthers, like I said, Sam Darnold, revenge game. Defense looked really good for Carolina. And yeah, Christian McCaffrey back, doing what Christian McCaffrey does.
Love the bold statement by Kelly saying that the Jets have a potential to take the AFC East over the Buffalo Bills. That's a bold statement there, young boy. That's a bold-ass statement.
Well, we'll see. I think they might pull out a second place. We'll see.
Come on now. Don't do it to the Bills like that. Bill Mafia.
No. I want Bills to win. Bills need this.
Hey, I don't give a crap what anyone says. Bills Mafia, greatest fan base in the world.
Yep.
Nobody else in cold ass weather jumps on fucking tables when they're drunk as hell for a football game.
Get the table.
Shout out to you guys. All right, next game we have a very surprising game. The Houston Texans on a complete, in my opinion, rebuild after just demolishing the team, led by Tyrod Taylor, taking it to the Jacksonville Jaguars 37-21.
Spoiling Lawrence's and Myers' NFL debut.
Fun fact, everyone, I actually just read this today. This loss is Trevor Lawrence's first loss in the regular season in his entire life. That being said, welcome to the NFL, Trevor Lawrence. You definitely weren't going to go 17-0 and win a Super Bowl. I think this shows a couple things. One, the Texans, they're looking to rebuild. They're looking to change. They're trying to fix what they've ruined in the past, and really surprise people. Tyrod Taylor, a quarterback who unfortunately suffered an injury last year from the hands of his own training staff.
Oh God, yeah, that's right.
To ultimately losing his job to Justin Herbert, which I would have thought that he would have lost it anyways because Justin Herbert was primed to make an NFL run and everything like that. He's a prolific quarterback. Again, I think with the Jaguars, they tanked last year for Lawrence, but they didn't do much to bounce back. Though you put up 21 points, the Texans came out hot. They had a very strong first half, and everything like that. So, in my opinion, we're going to see a lot of this with the Jacksonville Jaguars where they're going to struggle. I still think they're going to win some games, but if the Houston Texans beat you and they put up 37 on you, Lord knows what other teams are going to do to you.
Exactly. Tyrod Taylor started over with the Bills. Thought he'd be the quarterback over there. Unfortunately, it didn't pan out. That's bounced around, and now he's the starting quarterback until they decide to do with if Watson is going to come back or if Tyrod is actually going to be the future quarterback. Obviously, great game by them. Trevor Lawrence, like I said, and Urban Meyer spoiled in their season debut. Do you see Lawrence bouncing back from this?
I do.
He's suffering his very first ever loss.
I think it's going to be a couple games or so. I will make that decision based on what we see in the next upcoming matchup for him. I do see he will bounce back, but I think it's going to take some time. A lot of this also, from what I read today, that Urban Meyer is not a guy who likes to lose, and he very much gets very aggressive and very angry. So not only is this a motive for Trevor Lawrence, not only is Trevor Lawrence have to bounce back, but Urban Meyer has to as well. Because you got to remember, with Urban Meyer, mostly a college coach, and he's had success in Utah. He has had success, obviously, in Florida, and then most recently, Ohio State. So losing never really came too much to him. Welcome to the NFL. You took the Jacksonville Jaguars. So
seeing the clips of him on the sideline when they were getting beat, he was just like, he was not happy. He could definitely tell. You could see the frustration on his voice. Mm-hmm. So I do expect, Urban to figure something out here and get that team back to a winning mentality and probably coming out with a win here real soon.
I do too, and they're going to need it. So now we're going to jump to the next game, which was one of the best games of the weekend.
This is definitely a contender, I think, for probably game of the week.
I have my pick for game of the week, but
one of the top contenders.
What a comeback by the Kansas City Chiefs.
By the way, Josh, thank you very much for the look. I appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Go right ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. A very promising showing from the Cleveland Browns, but unfortunately coming up short to the reigning AFC champions, the Kansas City Chiefs, winning 33-29. Patrick Mahomes continuing to show everyone why he's one of the best quarterbacks and will continue to show that until the end of his career. But I give the Browns very strong performance by their running game of Nick Chubb. Baker Mayfield having a very solid game, but nothing big. Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, or Travis Kelce, as it's properly pronounced, making a big run, and the big three of the Kansas City Chiefs help leading them to the comeback victory. So what are your thoughts on this game? I know my prediction was that these two were going to compete for the AFC, obviously showed. And what are your thoughts on this game?
I think this is a preview of what's to come. I actually think this is a preview of what's to come. Both teams have got the pieces that they need to win. It's just that with the Browns, depending on what Baker Mayfield shows up, if I believe Odell Beckham's still on the team, I think he was just hurt.
Yes, he suffered a major injury last year. He was out, and he ended up sitting week.
And so you'll have him back here soon, and I think that once you get him back out there on the field, that will help open that up. Nick Chubb, I saw him. He had some really great runs. His old line was making holes for him. His wide receivers holding their blocks so he can get out there. I think we're going to see a great Browns team here this year, making the playoffs. That being said, we'll see what they later on. What we think we'll do in the playoffs with them. But yes, I see Browns really being a very high contender in their division, and obviously the Kansas City Chiefs. They're the Kansas City Chiefs. Andy Reid, just has taken that franchise and turned it into maybe possibly a dynasty. I know we've been throwing that around a bit here lately, but a dynasty, another pretty much another Kansas City dynasty.
KFC.
I know, I almost did.
Yeah, and the big thing about the Browns is that there's a lot more. They're going to come back hot because the last 2 games that they played outside of the preseason ended up being 2 losses. Both these Kansas City Chiefs, both of them inches away of winning. And so, but give your thoughts here real quick before we move on. Does this continue to show Patrick Mahomes as one of the best to ever play the game at this point?
Most definitely. He's in his 4th season now. I mean, he's not slowed down. This season? Well, that's right. He said his first year, correct? Yeah. Yes. So 5th season, he has not slowed down. He's still out there making plays. He actually had one where he was rolled out in this game and threw a dart to one of his wide receivers, Tyreek Hill, and he's making plays he's getting out there to make plays, so to give his team the win, get that ball to his wide receivers. I just hope, that he doesn't, try to do that too much. He's obviously a great pocket passer. He definitely can command that offense when he needs to. I think, he's going to be that elite quarterback that, for years and years to come, that it's just going to drive defenses crazy.
I agree. Looking forward to see the Chiefs throughout the year and the rest of the career of Patrick Mahomes. Going to the next game, we have a really good game, really close, 1-point victory. Miami Dolphins beating the newly Mac Jones-led New England Patriots 17-16.
I watched this game, and this was a great game by 2 former Alabama quarterbacks commanding their offenses, and yeah, like I said, go ahead. I'm just sorry, but this was really good.
This one you talk more because I don't know about this one. Obviously, my thoughts are I think Tua can lead the Dolphins, and he's shown a lot of promise last year. Obviously, there was a little bit of struggles at times. But what are your thoughts on the Dolphins? And then what are your thoughts on the Patriots with Mac Jones? My thought is that this shows a genius of Bill Belichick. Mac Jones shows a lot of comparison to quarterback that he's obviously had before. Not saying that he's the next Tom Brady, because Tom Brady is Tom Brady. But do you see a lot of promise in Mac Jones, and how do you feel about that?
So with Miami, I think Tua is actually proving the doubters wrong right now. A lot of people are kind of speculating about him that, he's not going to be a top NFL quarterback. One thing I don't know why I keep forgetting he's a left-handed thrower. I don't know why I keep forgetting that he's a left-handed thrower. So when I thought him throwing the ball, I was like, oh, okay. But I think one of the biggest surprises the Dolphins actually have there, and this is not to represent my Huskies anymore. But Gaskin was actually making some plays out there and helping bailing them out. This is what I saw. He was getting out there. Obviously, you have Parker and their other big wide receiver that was there helping to make some really great plays. Like I said, Tua he was doing really good when he was flushed out of the pocket. He stayed calm. He made, the passes that he needed to. He did have some throws, that were a bit off the mark, but that's to be expected. But I definitely see the Dolphins, like I had mentioned earlier, in that division being up there with that young division. Obviously, you got Howard on the defensive side of that team, who was a interception leader last year, had another great game as well. So hopefully they continue to build off of that. Patriots, Mac Jones got his first game under his belt. He's actually looking really good. He definitely, I think, is actually going to fit that Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels offense just fine. I think what they need to do is actually get him, a good wide receiver to match with him better, and they will be fine. Probably even find a tight end, and I think he'll be golden. They obviously have a good offensive line. They struggled a little bit in the beginning, but then they ended up figuring it out. I think Mac Jones can be the future of that organization. I got to see more though, because like you said, anytime we have a college player transferring to the NFL, you got to give it some time to see what's going to happen.
Okay. Moving on, we have quite a surprising game. The
God.
New Orleans Saints, led by Jameis Winston and Alvin Kamara, versus the Green Bay Packers with the returning Aaron Rodgers. Saints coming out with a big 38-3 win.
This was terrible to watch. This was just terrible to watch.
So, a couple things to take away from this game is obviously the two big stories from this game is Jameis Winston's first NFL starts really since his departure from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in his last year when he was with them, going for over 5,000 yards and went 30 for 30. Coming out strong with kind of, a surprising performance where he only threw 148 yards, but he has 5 scores. And then Aaron Rodgers having probably his worst game of his career. Couple things, I take away from this game is, and I'm going to say it, and granted, I do love the Green Bay Packers. People that know me know my favorite quarterback of all time was Brett Favre. All right, I loved them Packers back in the day. But I think the drama of Aaron Rodgers with the Green Bay Packers is affecting this organization, as it shows. Now, the big question from this game was Aaron Rodgers purposely throwing this game? I don't know if I can say that he was, because if he did, you lose all respect, in my opinion. I don't want to ever hear your name in the greatest quarterback conversation, because that's a piss-ass performance. The Saints are a team to watch out for. They came so close every year to a Super Bowl maybe not last year, but the last few years, they were always a team to potentially go to the Super Bowl. I think Jameis is playing with such an edge because this is his opportunity. He won this job. This is his time. Sean Payton's a great coach. I don't know how I feel about the Packers. They're obviously a team to always compete for the NFC West championship, not just the NFC North. What are your thoughts on this performance of Aaron Rodgers, Jameis Winston? Do you feel like there's something going on more than what's ever going to be said, or do you think that this was just a complete domination of one team compared to the other?
I'm going to start with the Saints. I think Winston is playing with a big chip on his shoulder. Obviously, that one season, I believe it was the 2019 season, where he went 30 for 30 and also threw for 5,000 yards, leading the league that year. I think he has that chip on his shoulder. Nobody was thinking highly of him after, especially throwing 30 interceptions in the season. He actually spent 2 seasons behind Drew Brees. Learning from him, learning from Sean Payton. So you got you literally have 2 great coaches right there that have helped him out. I was watching this game, and even apparently Brees even texted Winston before the game saying, "Hey, you got this. Go out and do what you do. You have all the tools to do that." I was very surprised watching this game how well Winston handled the offense. Um, it totally shocked me. I didn't think he would do well at all, but it proved me wrong. Kamara did Kamara. He does what he does when he gets that ball. He makes guys miss. He gets those first downs. He gets those yards. He gets out there in the flat or dumb passes, gets that ball, makes guys miss. He did what he had to do. Green Bay Packers, yes. This was not the Green Bay we are used to seeing, especially to start out the season. Aaron was actually doing pretty well that first quarter, especially with the wide receiver. I know his name's not Lizard, it's Lazard. Lazard was actually keep an eye on that guy. Keep an eye on that guy. That guy might be taking over Cobb's job here soon. But he was catching everything he was going on. But to get back to Aaron, it did not look like Aaron Rodgers was, out there to really play the game almost. It felt like, yeah, I'm just out here, I'll just go out here and run this play. But just if he is doing what people are speculating that he's doing and just literally tanking this game, then I'm sorry, you're right. You lose respect for the guy. You're already a legend. You're a future Hall of Famer. You don't need to do this. I mean, I'm sorry. If this is trying to put like a nail in the coffin that you want out of here, you should have just retired and saved that embarrassment from you. I mean, it was kind of making me steam a little bit, but I'm sorry. There's something still not going right in Green Bay right now, and you could even see it. I even saw with Devontae Adams getting a little bit frustrated on some plays where he would turn around and look at Aaron and be like, "What the hell's going on?"
A lot of tension in Green Bay as of right now from the offseason. So let's see as we go forward with the season, see if it bounces back, or you know what, it could be time for a change. Going into the next game, we have the Denver Broncos, led by Teddy Bridgewater, in his debut as a starter, versus the New York Giants with the return of Saquon Barkley. Not much to speak on this one. I didn't really watch a lot of the highlights and everything like that. Broncos handling their business over the Giants. I don't. My thoughts on the Giants is that I think that there's still hope for the Giants, obviously, in the NFC East. But there's, to be honest, the Denver Broncos are a team that can very much win games. But to me, this was kind of the battle between probably the fourth place teams in both their division, with the Broncos taking the win.
You got Teddy Bridgewater coming in with a new team. I still think Teddy Bridgewater got screwed out of his job back in Minnesota. I mean, they should have stuck with him after he came back from injury. You seen Bridgewater over with the Saints a little bit when Breeze was hurt. You saw him over in Carolina last year. Trying not the same. So I was hoping maybe with a different offense and actually getting a full season with first round starters, we'll see something. Obviously, it showed. He proved me wrong. I didn't think he was going to do much at all going in with this team. So definitely keep an eye on him, see how he follows up with this after this game. Giants got Barkley back. Obviously, you can tell Barkley's not 100% back up to speed yet. Still up, trying to get back into that. They did have their middle linebacker, Blake Martinez, who was questionable before the game. He was a big factor to help them. Sterling Shepard, as good as he's been for that team since he's been there, still doing what he does. I think him and Daniel Jones, they figure it out. Get Barkley back into that system. They'll bounce back.
All right, we're going to go to Sunday Night Football game where the newly looked Los Angeles Rams, led by Matthew Stafford, versus the Chicago Bears. Rams coming out with a big 34-14 win on Sunday Night Football. I didn't catch a lot of the game. I caught the end. But from my understanding is this. Welcome to LA, Matthew Stafford, who is a very underrated quarterback from his time in Detroit. Obviously, he was big name when they had Calvin Johnson. but now he's on a different team. Well, and everyone, the big question mark was, how is it going to be? Obviously, coming out really big with a 321-yard performance and 3 touchdowns. And again, I don't think there's a defense that is better than the Los Angeles Rams. Really taking it to the Rams team, who had started Andy Dalton, and then we saw a little bit of Justin Fields coming in the game. But from my understanding, really this was just Rams from the get-go. There was nothing more to say. I think that the Rams are the favorite to win the NFC West potentially, especially after the performance they had last year and against the Seattle Seahawks and even against the Green Bay Packers in the playoffs. What are your thoughts? I know you were watching this game and everything like that. So
I only saw a little bit of it actually. Obviously, Chicago's got to figure out the quarterback situation there. That's been the thing for the whole offseason. Do you go with a veteran Andy Dalton and have Fields stay on the sideline, watching, learning? Or do you put Fields out there, being the young guy and get that first year under his belt, work with that offense? Chicago's got to figure it out. They got to figure out what they want to do on that offense. Rams, yes, this is actually surprising, but I mean, not surprising and not surprising. Stafford has always been this way. Stafford's always been that, I think, one of the elite quarterbacks that is actually very underrated. He's always put up high numbers, throws for a lot of touchdowns. And you put him into a system like that with the Rams, where they're known to be that kind of team that, likes to throw the ball. It used to be a big run-heavy team. They're not so much anymore, it feels like, especially with their running back out right now, Archer.
And then loss of Todd Gurley.
And then, loss of Todd Gurley, unfortunately. Well, fortunately, unfortunately. But you got Cooper Kupp that's still there. You still got some key guys. Obviously, like you said, that defense, with Sam Darnold, Jalen Ramsey, and Higsby?
Tyler Higbee.
Higbee, on that defensive side. Rams have always had a tough defense under Sean McAvey. I always butcher that wrong. So
it's the same guy who butchers Will Disley.
Yeah. Thanks. Anyway.
And he's a dog.
Anyway, again, this is another thing like Ryan was saying earlier. The NFC West is going to be tough this year. They all put up high numbers. When we have the when the rival division rival games start, they are going to be interesting to see if they are going to actually be defensive kind of games like we see sometimes, or they're just going to be, a one-sided kind of thing.
Yeah, I think the week 1 performance, I know some people can make the argument that it's too early to show, but with all 4 of the NFC West teams actually coming out on top, it shows that there is a lot to watch out for, and it's anyone's game. Breaking down all 4 before we get into the Monday night game, I think Arizona, high-powered offense, very strong defense, with Budda Baker leading there. With they have a lot to live up to, but I think their time is still not yet. 49ers, if they can stay healthy, man, they're such a good team. And Jimmy Garoppolo, not being a flashy quarterback, but being someone who really is underestimated a lot for his style. And then obviously the top 2 contenders, the Seattle Seahawks, who are the reigning defending undisputed NFC West.
He's getting a full Paul Heyman here.
I was about to, but I had to hold myself back. And then the Los Angeles Rams. Like I said, I think this shows a couple things. I think there's a lot of high-powered offense, but also, I think it shows where defenses stand on these games. So, like to see what happens. Again, all NFC West games are always good, except for when Seattle goes to Los Angeles. We always crap ourselves and everything like that.
So before we actually move on, since we're actually talking about the NFC West team, division, do you think players want to play for teams in that division right now?
Absolutely, and I think it starts with environment and coaching. And so You don't have to honestly. So Kyle Shanahan and I'm kind of blanking on Arizona's coach.
Oh,
Is it Cliff Kingsbury?
Kingsbury, yes.
So you got two young coaches. Shanahan's a great offensive-minded coach, providing that he can come through in the clutch is the biggest thing. And then Kingsbury with a great mind. He was a hell of a quarterback in Texas Tech back in college days, and he's leading the Arizona Cardinals to a promising career and everything like that with Kyler Murray. Then you obviously have, you know what? I do not know how to pronounce the Rams coach's name because you threw me in for a loop.
I'm pretty sure it's Sean McAvey.
It's like I think it's Sean McVay and everything like that. Sean McAvey, very young and promising coach. He's a great great-minded coach. He has the Rams on the right track, and people want to play for him. And obviously, Pete Carroll,
35-year-old coach, by the way.
Yeah,
35-year-old.
He is the youngest, and actually, the NFC West has the youngest and the oldest head coaches in the NFL. And with Sean McAvey, and then Pete Carroll. I mean, if anyone knows Seattle fans, Seattle Seahawks like we do,
who just turned 70 today.
They're just coaches you want to play for. There's environments that they want to play for, and then there's also great teammates as well. Starting with obviously Seattle Seahawks with Russell Wilson being a he's a different breed. He loves his team. He's a people person. So it's welcoming. And the same can be said about the Rams. They always want to compete, but they're always fun guys to be around, everything like that. The Cardinals now with, I think with J.J. Watt, there's a reason and I think to look at this too, J.J. Watt could have gone anywhere in the NFL. Anybody.
Many times over.
Many times over. This dude people thought was going to go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to chase a ring. But he instead went to the Arizona Cardinals, and I think that's because people want to play in the toughest division and prove themselves and everything like that. And there's also there are not all those teams. You can love them or hate them, especially if you're a fan of one of them. You want to hate every one of them, but you can't, in my opinion. You really can't. They all play great football. They're all great. A bunch of great players that are top NFL players in every category. I think that the toughness brings in the talent. And so that's why you see guys like the Arizona Cardinals who are stacking their team up. And if you look them on paper, they should compete with the Rams for best defense in that division, in my opinion.
I like that. The toughness brings in the best talent. I like that. That's good. Anyway, let's get to our last game.
Monday Night Football, an instant classic game. Loved watching this game. The Las Vegas Raiders coming out on top in overtime to beat the Baltimore Ravens 33-27. What a game. What a game for this.
It did not start out good. But it got good.
And most games in the NFL in week one are not going to start out great. But
no.
Here's some things to factor. And I didn't watch the full game, but I watched the fourth quarter to the overtime. Lamar Jackson is a guy you cannot figure out. Point proven, he led his team in rushing. But he's such a threat that you don't know how to really defend against him because he's too good. That being said, shout out to one of my favorite coaches in John Gruden for figuring it out. And Derek Carr, who, in my opinion, is a very hit and miss quarterback. He's boomer bust. He does great, and then he craps himself. I got off work yesterday, and before I worked out, I caught the end of. So the Ravens came out and took the lead right before overtime, 27-24, and within 3 to 4 plays, if I'm not mistaken, Derek Carr led him back to tie the game.
Oh yeah,
I think this shows a lot. Darren Waller had a game to reckon with, with 100 yards and a touchdown.
He was catching everything Carr threw at him.
I outside of Waller, there's not a very strong receiving core with the
No.
Las Vegas Raiders, but they Brian Edwards, the young rookie, stepped up huge with the what arguably could have been a touchdown at the very end there, but he did fall up short. But coming through in the end, in leading going into overtime, he hit Carr found him twice for big plays to get him in field goal position. This was, in my opinion, it's tied with the Cleveland Browns and the Kansas City Chiefs game, only because that's two of the greatest AFC teams. These two are just below that, in my opinion. I think that this is a showing that the Raiders are ready to play and ready to go. I think they're going to fight for something, especially. And I will say this. I will say this about the Raiders. I love UFC is a sport that I loved watching and everything like that. But one thing I loved was the fact that Bruce Buffer came out and introduced the Las Vegas Raiders and did his whole thing. Got to go big for your first time with the full crowd. So that was awesome to see. What are your thoughts on this game?
I watched this game, and like I said, it wasn't pretty at first, but as it got into the second half, it got good. Both offenses started clicking really well. Derek Carr started to find Waller a bunch of times, as you can see, and as you had pointed out, it felt like Waller was the only wide receiver running around out there. The running backs, I did actually notice both Jacobs and Drake were doing a very good job helping Carr out. So I'm actually going to say something a bit negative here. I mean, not negative, but something probably observant about Lamar Jackson that I've noticed in this game. I felt like he was trying to do way, way too much on offense. Like he's trying to do what he's been doing the last couple of years, but I think he's trying to do it more. And I think that's what actually hurt him in this game, where he gave up the 2 fumbles and the interception. I think he's not. I don't know if it's a trust issue or he thinks he can just make these plays because he's done it before. Because I kept seeing him scramble, getting out of the pocket, and trying to make a play, either trying to pass and not really hitting it very well, or it was like almost like a 50-50 thing. But then when he would try to scramble, I think he needs to dial that back a bit, because I think teams are going to start figuring that out. I think they're going to start concealing him in that thing, and I think, like I said, he gave up, I believe it was 2 fumbles and they were the costly fumbles. And I think Harbaugh has to, to have a set down, like, hey, you can't do this anymore. You got to, stay in the pocket. You either got to throw that ball away or you got to get to your guy. That's just an observation I made. We'll see, though. I mean, obviously, in the NFL now, you're starting to see that with a lot of quarterbacks coming in, scrambling around, making plays. So it's just, I guess, a matter of time. How long is Lamar going to keep doing that?
Well, I think too that on that, he did do a lot and everything like that, but unfortunately, when you lose running backs after running backs after running back and everything like that, it does put a little strain. Big shout out to Max Crosby, who came up with some of those big stops and everything like that.
Very impressive.
And especially in overtime, coming up with the big fumble recovery in overtime to get the ball back to help lead them to victory.
Great story about him, by the way, guys. Alcoholic who finally kicked that addiction and is cleaning up his life and is just playing great football right now.
Absolutely, it's a fun-filled story and everything like that. Again, I do see a lot of promise in both these teams. I just think with Lamar, he does need a little bit more help on offense. Ravens, Harbaugh is a really great coach and everything like that, and he knows as well that they just need to make sure that they can build a team. And like Kelly said, and I agree, Lamar does too much at times, and it just hurts them. So he has to learn to dial that back a little bit, trust more of his team, and go from there.
Obviously, Sammy Watkins actually stepped up big for him this year, being the first year there. He found Sammy quite a bit, got him some good routes. Had trouble, though, getting the ball to Mark Andrews, that I noticed. And also the running back Williams that they just brought in after losing the running backs. Keep an eye on him. He was actually showing some really good. He was a little shaky at first as they were still trying to figure out what quarter running back to have in the game. But watch Williams going forward here. I think if he gets some more practice and they work with him more, he might actually be a factor here, helping with that running game.
I agree. So the next part of the segment we'll go into, I think we can, if you want to.
Up to you, unless you want to take a break, or we can just finish it up.
I'm good. It's 1:00. It's a very short segment where we're going to talk about key injuries in the NFL that have really hurt teams. That being, in my opinion, we could talk about every injury, we could break down everything, but I think the two that really hurt the teams the most are Ryan Fitzpatrick and Mozart from two players who were projected to have some great years this year. Unfortunately, sustaining injuries. No word on Ryan Fitzpatrick yet on how long his injury will be, but we'll see what these teams do. I think that it's a good opening for upcoming players. Like I said, Elijah Mitchell from the San Francisco 49ers to possibly take the reign of the starting running back, and it be his time to shine. So now we're going to talk about, we're going to do a little fun thing Kelly and I are going to start doing. We've obviously seen in other NFL broadcasting and college broadcasting is we're going to do a fun picking the next games and everything like that. So we're going to start with Thursday Night Football game. We're going to start with the New York Giants coming to the Washington Football Team. I'll let you go first on your picks.
So you got your first divisional game, two teams that are playing each other. I think you're kind of looking at an even matchup. As I had said before, Giants got to get Barkley back into the game. Washington's going to have Heineke coming in at quarterback. So hopefully that Giants offense can get rolling there. I think Giants defense is actually pretty good. Obviously, you got on Washington side, you got Chase Young over there and a growing defense over there. I think it will become a bit of a fight game, as most rivalry games are. So it'll be an interesting one. I know a lot of people probably are not expecting it to be, but I think it will.
All right, so who's your pick?
I think I'm actually going to go with New York.
Kelly going with the New York Giants. I am going to go with the Washington Football Team. I think that their defense is going to play a more big factor into this win than that's going to really take it to this team. So going to the next game, we have Chicago Bears facing off with the Cincinnati Bengals in Chicago. One of Andy Dalton's returns to Cincinnati since leaving. I project him still starting. Obviously, there's a lot of sentimental value with him being in Cincinnati, and it'd be kind of a jerkish move to not start him against his former longtime team. But I do see the Bears bouncing back from the loss against the Los Angeles Rams, and I will say the Bears take this game. And I'm going to say a close one. I'm going to think maybe 21-17.
All right. Pretty much like what you said, I expect Andy Dalton to start this game, and we'll see how that goes. I think if Andy does not get going within probably the first quarter or second quarter, you're going to see Fields come in. I'm actually going to pick Cincinnati over this one. I think they're going to carry that overtime win. Excuse me, that overtime win that they had, and take off that. And yeah, I think it's going to be a close game as well. I'm not going to give a score. I'm just going to say it's going to be a close game.
I'm not going to give scores to everyone. I just thought my thought.
Yep.
Third game, we're going to go with the Houston Texans going to the Cleveland Browns. My vote is Houston. You had a great first game. Welcome to the dog pound. Cleveland takes the game. Baker Mayfield bounces back from a disappointing loss against the Kansas City Chiefs after being there so close. And I think Chubb and Mayfield are going to have two great games with the defense playing very well. I do see it being probably maybe a high-scoring game at one point, but Cleveland takes it in the end.
Yeah, obviously both teams had high scores here this last week. But, home field advantage to the Cleveland Browns. I'm picking the Browns. I think it is going to probably be a high scoring game, but I do see Cleveland probably coming out top, at least winning by 10.
All right, game 4, we have the Rams of Los Angeles versus the Indianapolis Colts. My thoughts are this. Colts offensive line, you had a hard time with Seattle. Say hello to Aaron Donald and that hell of a defense in Los Angeles. Handily, the Rams taking over the Colts.
You got Sam. I'm sorry.
Wow.
Matthew Stafford. I don't know why I was thinking Sam. I was actually almost trying to say Sam Bradford. I have no idea why.
See, I actually thought you were trying to say Sam Darnold over Aaron Donald.
No, no.
It's like, that's blasphemous, if anything. Like
Matthew Stafford returning. I should say not return. Matthew Stafford coming off a great game. Butchering that little tired thing right here.
It's 1 in the morning. We can.
Yeah. Bouncing, going into Indianapolis. Colts defense is a little bit banged up right now. Unless they get Xavier Woods back to help him in the backfield.
Woods or
Xavier Rhodes.
Down.
I want to watch the new episode. Anyway, I see Rams winning this one. I think their defense is just going to come in there and do the same thing that Seattle did, but just probably even more with that defensive line that they got. Carson Wentz, you'll probably be running for your life, so hopefully they can figure out something there.
I will say this, comparing the Seattle defense to the Rams defense before we move on. Disciplined. One thing I see about the Rams defense is that they're disciplined.
Yes.
Which is a big key factor when the matchups come. Next game, we have the Bills of Buffalo going to the Dolphins of Miami. I think this is going to be a close game. I think, like what Kelly said before, the AFC East could be a division to watch out for. I think Miami takes this game very closely. I think the Bills struggle because they're playing another good defense. And I think with it being in Miami, this is a boost for Tua. I think close win, maybe a 1-point victory. Miami with the somewhat, what people would say, upset.
I'm actually going opposite. I think Buffalo is going to use this game as a, hey, we need to be better than we were before. We need to be like we were last year. I think they use this game to fix what they did, and they come out strong against Miami. Even though Miami, yes, is looking strong as well, I see it being probably like a 5-point win game for Buffalo.
He's also saying that because Josh Allen's the starting quarterback on his fantasy team.
I could have said something. Myles Gaskin could have been an influence for Miami too. So
that's because he's just a dog.
Exactly.
Don't forget 0-2.
Yep, I know.
Worst offense.
I know. Trust me. I know.
All right, we have another AFC East matchup with the New England Patriots versus the New York Giants.
Jets.
Excuse me. I don't Kelly too much. Sometimes I butcher things. Great matchup between two rookie quarterbacks and everything. After the week 1 performances, I do see the Patriots coming in and getting a victory over the New York Jets. I think the Jets with Zach Wilson has some work to be done. But if I had to trust one of these two quarterbacks to lead their team to their first victory, I'm putting my money on Mac Jones.
I'm going to be the same way. I think New England's going to come in and do this well. I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but I think, Mac Jones gets his first game underneath his belt. Bill Belichick, being Bill Belichick, is going to figure out what they need to do for him, and they're going to come into New York and, like I said, probably win at least by 10.
All right, we're going to go with the San Francisco 49ers going to the Philadelphia Eagles. I think this is going to be one of the games to watch for in the week. My heart really wants to go for the Eagles and Jalen Hurts and see if he can pull off a go 2-0. But when healthy, like I said, San Francisco 49ers are a team that is contenders, and they are a team to watch out for, especially on that defense. I think in a very close matchup game, and we could potentially see more Trey Lance in this game. I think they would need to kind of evade, get out of the pocket a little bit more. Obviously, Garoppolo is not a mobile quarterback as much. I do see the Niners taking a very close victory from the Eagles.
You got the veteran Jimmy Garoppolo going against the young Jalen Hurts and that offense they got going over there. I think that San Francisco will come up on top of this one. I think it actually will be a high scoring game. I think these guys are going to have a shootout in this game, but also you got San Francisco's defense that, has always been a disciplined defense with Nick Bosa there on that line. I think he's going to give Hurts and that offensive line a hard time. I'm picking San Francisco to win over the Eagles.
All right, we're going to go with the next game. The Las Vegas Raiders coming off the big epic win against the Baltimore Ravens, and they're playing their rivals in the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is going to be a great matchup, but the key factor for me in this game, defense. Who has a better defense? Pittsburgh Steelers. So my pick is the Pittsburgh Steelers to take the win over the Raiders.
I would agree. I mean, you definitely got probably two even offenses almost. If LA can actually Las Vegas can figure out, who their first and second wide receivers are. I actually see Pittsburgh winning this one as well. I'm picking Pittsburgh.
All right, we're going to go with an NFC South matchup. The New Orleans Saints versus the Carolina Panthers. My pick is Saints. I think the Saints are going to continue to roll after their big win against the Green Bay Packers, winning this game in a pretty, I would actually say they're going to probably win in a pretty dominant fashion.
All right, I'm actually going to pick the Saints as well, but I think it's actually going to be a close game. Obviously Carolina. I think that Carolina's defense is actually coming along pretty well. Still want to see how Sam Darnold is going to work with that offense. See if he can actually follow up, but I think, it's going to be a close game with the Saints winning.
All right, we had the Denver Broncos going to Jacksonville to face the Jaguars. I think we see Trevor Lawrence's first win here. I think in a very close game, Lawrence comes out on top, gets his win, gets his foot, gets a little hope in his NFL season before ultimately probably losing.
You got literally two teams that are in the rebuilding years going at it right now, with new quarterbacks. If I had to, and it's hard to actually choose for this one. I'm probably gonna actually go with Denver. I think Denver's gonna take this one.
All right, we got the Minnesota Vikings and the Arizona Cardinals. I don't think Kyler has the best game like he did last week, but I do see the Cardinals kind of steamrolling over the Vikings, winning this game. Though the Vikings have a pretty good defense, I think that Arizona has a lot of weapons on them to be harder to stop. Give me Arizona over the Vikings.
Arizona at home is always hard to beat. So I'm definitely going to pick Arizona. As you said, I don't think Kyler's going to have a good game, as good as game. I think the defense is going to be the key factor for that game for Arizona and helping them secure that victory. And Minnesota, we'll see what happens with them going forward and see where they're at. But yes, Arizona.
Next game, we had the Buccaneers versus the Falcons. I don't think I need to say more than Tampa was going to lay waste to the Falcons.
Tampa Bay, done, over. Thanks for coming to Atlanta. See ya down the road.
Next game, we have a pretty good matchup on our hands with Dallas Cowboys at the Los Angeles Chargers. I think Dak gets a win, his first win in over a year. Chargers are going to put up a good fight. But with Dak Prescott healthy, it makes that team very dangerous. Coming off a close loss to the defending Super Bowl champs, I think there's a lot of upside to them. Give me the Cowboys to beat the Chargers in Los Angeles.
I agree as well. I think Dallas comes into Los Angeles and gets up their first win. Obviously, you saw that high power offense on Thursday night against the defending Super Bowl champs, Dallas over Chargers.
All right, we have the Tennessee Titans versus our favorite team, the Seattle Seahawks. Can Derrick Henry come into Seattle and continue his beast running like he always has, or is Seattle going to make a stop? I will say this. You couldn't stop Kyler Murray. What makes you think you're going to stop Russell Wilson? The difference between the two players is Russell has been doing this longer, has a little bit more accuracy and everything like that. I say Seattle wins a pretty close game because their defense will have some trouble with Julio Jones. I think he has to have a game to get going in order for Tennessee to really stay in it. Derrick Henry is going to rumble and bumble and probably be a great matchup of Derrick Henry versus Bobby Wagner, but give me the Seattle Seahawks in probably a 2-score game.
Got Seattle at home, always hard to beat. But I'm gonna be a realist with you guys. I think Tennessee is going to give Derrick Henry the ball a bit more, and that has always been one of the downfalls of Seattle defense here over the last few years is the running game against great running backs. I think Derrick Henry is going to have a good game. I think where the defense is going to have a tough time keeping him contained. I think this also will be a breakout game for Julio as well. On the other side, Seattle, carrying that momentum. Russell Wilson, as Ryan said, doing this longer is going to lead Seattle. I think, yes, it's going to be probably about a 5-score game for Seattle at home.
You're picking Seattle?
I'm picking Seattle.
I mean, you have any words that you're going to go Tennessee?
It's going to be one of those games where...
I thought you were sniffing it.
It's going to be one of those games where we're going to get so cringe. It's going to be one of those where we're cringing that I don't think we're going to start out good. But then all of a sudden, we're going to open up.
I mean, I think the UW games have been getting to you, man. I think you're losing faith in your teams. All right, we have a classic matchup of Patrick Mahomes versus Lamar Jackson. Kansas City going to Baltimore. Lamar is going to put up a great fight like he always does, but ultimately, in the end, three-headed monster of Kansas City is going to go in and take it, I think. Patrick doesn't have the best game, but he's going to have a good game.
Yeah, Kansas City going to Baltimore. You got two great offenses on there. I think, you have KC come in and win probably by like 8, I'm going to say. Lamar Jackson, as I had mentioned before, he's got not to try to do so much. I think with what we saw with the running back, Williams, and the other one, they will definitely be a bigger factor, and hopefully Baltimore can get Andrews and Watkins, involved a bit more. And also you got two really good defenses as well going at it. I'm picking Kansas City by winning by 8.
And then this is a big surprise in Monday Night Football. It's the Detroit Lions versus the Green Bay Packers. I am not going to lie. I'm actually going to go for Detroit in this one. I don't have faith in what Green Bay is doing this year after a really bad performance against the Saints. I'm going to take a risk on this one and go Detroit Lions. I think that they're hungry. I think Jared Goff is out to prove that the trade was worth it for him to go there and to not have Stafford anymore. They had a great performance against the San Francisco team, who I think could be better than Green Bay if everyone was healthy. Obviously, Green Bay has Aaron Rodgers. My big question mark on this game is where's Aaron's head? Now, this could be a dominating game for the Green Bay Packers if Aaron Rodgers and the Packers are back on sync, but I don't see it foreseeing happen in this game. Give me the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, as you said, obviously, hands down would be an easy pick taking Green Bay, but I don't see it. If being a home game at Lambeau Field for Green Bay, obviously, you would pick them, but depending to see what Aaron Rodgers we have show up, I think I'm actually going to go with Detroit as well. Jared Goff showed that, even though they were down by a lot of points against San Francisco, that, they weren't going down without a fight. I'm picking Detroit over Green Bay in Green Bay.
Yep. That's kind of a big upset right there. So Tell us what you guys think about who you guys pick. What do you think is going to be a key game to watch and everything like that. Last segment we're going to get into for the night is final buckets of champions. And yes, you got to say buckets like that.
It's buckets, guys. Rhino's buckets. Actual buckets.
Buckets of champions. We're going to start with the defensive side. So again, this is a segment where I'm going to pick a player on offense and a player on defense who may not necessarily have the best stats, but that led their team to them in the sense of their play, what they've done, and everything like that. So I'm going to start on defense, and I'm going to go with someone on the Carolina Panthers, Shaq Thomas, who had 10 tackles. He also had 3 pass deflections or defenses. Yes, he is a dog. That's not why I picked him.
I know.
I will never pick him based on that.
I didn't say anything.
1 interception. To me, he was a big factor. He's been a big factor of the Carolina Panthers because of his ability to. He's a great playmaker. We watched him in UW, and he has some shoes to fill with the loss of Luke Kuechly a few years ago from retirement.
I miss that guy.
But 10 tackles, 3 pass defenses, and an interception, all coming out of linebacker spot. That's a big play. Obviously, it helped lead the Panthers to a win this week. And then offensively, yes, I'm going to go with quarterback only because I watched this. I think when his team needed him, he performed. And that is Derek Carr of the Las Vegas Raiders, throwing for 435 yards, which leads the NFL. But he marched his team down to within 3 plays in 30 seconds, no timeouts, to get his team there. And an unfortunate interception in overtime, which honestly, take a slow down and everything like that. But he had fight. I think another person I was going to say was probably Dak Prescott. But after Derek's performance, leading them to the victory, he did what he needed to do for his team. So my week 1 final buckets of champions, Derek Carr of the Las Vegas Raiders and Shaq Thompson of the Carolina Panthers.
Great picks. Great picks. Not who I expected you to pick, but great picks.
It's gonna, you might see some of the same players each week, or you might see someone different. But like I said, I view these guys as reasons why their teams won. And so love to see where it's going from there. Love to see who competes, seeing who makes the bucket list next week. So
we have an idea that we might be doing for the bucket list for the end of the season. We haven't decided fully yet, but we might have an idea.
Everything is trial by error. Obviously, this is our 4th episode we've done in total. We've done 2 college, and this is our 2nd NFL. Like I said, like we said on Sunday, guys, we're gonna do every college review stream every Sunday. We're gonna always wait till the games are ending. So Sunday is a great day for college football, and then for the NFL, we have a little bit of window between Tuesdays and Wednesdays. We definitely want to try to get this in before the NFL season starts. Obviously, you guys leave us comments, and both on the stream and on YouTube, if you guys have any questions. We won't be showing any highlights of the games, you guys. It's just something we're not going to do. You're just going to be us talking. Guys, if you have any questions, please let us know. We appreciate you guys for viewing us and everything like that. Big thing that we wanted to do for a long time of doing podcasts and talking sports. If there are other sports you want us to talk about, let us know. Like I said, we've opened up for other sports in general. But right now we're just testing the waters with football.
Right. Like you said, if you guys have suggestions for us as well as to, what we could do, what we should do, feel free to leave those. You pretty much summed up the end of the podcast here. I got nothing more.
Thank you, guys. You guys have a wonderful night, and we'll see you guys on Sunday.
You guys all have a good week. Stay safe.